I'm Sarah Brown. I consider myself a Californian New Mexican, and I've been a teacher of recently arrived Spanish-speaking children, and then I had a restaurant for about 10 years. When I was about 6 years old, I must have been snotty. I don't know what happened, but my grandfather grabbed me by the arm and ran me out of a room, gave me a little lecture, and told me that I was very lucky, and that I was always going to be lucky, and that there were a lot of people who were not, and that therefore I owed a responsibility to my community. And so that kind of set my life.
Hi, I'm Doug Brown, a likewise California transplant, and spent most of our New Mexico, 38 years in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. I'm a recovering banker. I've been involved in, well, it's kind of like a Russian novel. I've been state treasurer, and I was dean of the business school, and I've started up several businesses and so on and so forth. I've always been active in volunteering, and I think it started in grade school. I had a powerful experience. We were chubby little off-key kids singing at what was then called the old folks home. And I'm sure we were terrible, but the elderly people there were just so taken by us. You could see tears running down their faces. They just so loved being with us and seeing us. And it just impressed me how much that little tiny bit of thing we did, how much it meant to them. And that just sort of kindled a spark and has continued through my life in terms of charitable activities and philanthropy and so on. I found that fundraising and involvement in charitable activities is also friend raising. The kind of people who devote themselves to charitable activities are the nicest people. They're people you want to spend time with. So that was always a very powerful draw for me.
I think I've always been concerned about children. I was about 8 or 9. My grandfather bought a TV. We watched the news every night. That was when I first heard about children going to school who'd come in from Mexico. They talked about this one child who sat an entire year in the back of his class, and no one talked to him because he didn't speak English. And I couldn't imagine how lonely that would be. It was so disturbing to me. Eventually that led me into education, and the class that I had were all immigrant children who spoke no English. When we were first married, I left teaching in Los Angeles and moved to San Francisco to be with Doug, and met a woman who was trying to start an after-school educational recreational program for Chinese, Cantonese-speaking children. And I was very fascinated that she was doing that because I thought that would be good for the Spanish-speaking community as well. They said they needed someone to chair their board and hire a staff and help develop the program. I think I worked on that for 4 or 5 years. And at that point, we went to the Chinatown YMCA and got them to pick up our program and sponsor it. And I looked it up today on the internet. They are still doing something similar, not exactly the same program that they took over from us, but something similar. So I think I feel a lot of pride that has carried on.
When I first came to town, Albuquerque Airport was all torn up. It was known locally as Beirut International Airport because of its torn up state. So I met the mayor a few weeks after I came here and said to him, I've seen a model of the finished airport, the way it's going to look. It's going to be gorgeous. Are you going to have any kind of a big reopening event? He says, gosh, no, maybe we should. Would you do it? Oops. So guess who found himself to be chair of a committee putting the reopening event together? And it turned out to be a huge success. We had 700 people come in, occupied a big black tie dinner in the Concourse B with a governor, both senators, a bunch of mayors. And we raised, in addition to paying for the whole thing, $21,000 profit, which we used to mount that plane, that biplane that you see in the lobby of the airport. That's an outcome from that. And we also had an event bringing in 200 businesses from outside Albuquerque to take a look at us under the theme New Mexico is taking off. And so it was a very satisfying event and activities. If you're really committed to doing charitable works, I think you have to be satisfied that the job is never done, that there's always going to be poverty, healthcare needs, education needs. Your aim should be to make progress and continue to make progress.
Well, that's true. It's also the lesson of advocacy. If you're going to be an advocate for anything, poverty, hunger, the arts, whatever it is, that's not going to end. It's kind of a lifelong thing. We feel very grateful and also very pleased. I think there are probably other people even in this room who have done far more than we have or made a larger impact in many ways. But it's been special to look back on, particularly for me. I keep thinking of my grandfather, and I feel like he would be pleased that I did what he asked me to.
I'm very grateful for this recognition, but as I see the other people getting the award, I'm especially grateful to be in company of Ed and the others. And for the sponsorship of the JCC. I mean, you've done so much for our community. You've just built a pillar, and you've just attracted so much by way of not just philanthropy and the programs you run, but how accommodating you've been to the whole society of Albuquerque, and that makes it especially meaningful to us.